Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Adhyasa Bhashya 3. I will I will struggle through it. Anyways, let's go and get started. Sure everything is good.
So this class is a kind of an interim class because we finished studying the Kathopanishad, and then my plan is to go on to the Mundakopanishad next. However, in between there is an intervening period in which I'll be traveling to India mainly to attend the centenary celebrations of the Ramakrishna Mission Ashram in Mumbai. We are 100 years old and they are celebrating this year. I'm going to give some talks there and some other places also I'm visiting. So there's going to be a gap. And instead of starting and immediately stopping the Mundakopanishad, I thought let's do something else. We had three classes, just three classes. So there was a demand for an introduction to the Adhyasa Bhashya. This is a masterful introduction written by Shankaracharya to his commentary on the Brahma Sutras. So I thought, let's do that. Let's just take a look. But I really wish I could take time and study this with all of you line by line. It's really worthwhile, but that would be a full course in itself, as you begin to see how deep everything is, and we'll see more of that today. So for the time being, we'll just have to do with these three classes as a introduction, as a taste of what the Adhyasa Bhashya is. In today's class, I'll start off again by repeating what Adhyasa is and tell us why and talk about why it's so important. And then go on to the definition of Adhyasa offered by Shankaracharya. What is the definition of Adhyasa? And various issues which rise from that definition. We'll get a taste of how deeply these things have been thought about by both monks and scholars in India for centuries, if not millennia. And then, oh yes, I promised story time. There are a lot of stories associated with this. I'll share 3 stories at the end. All right, let's start. That's what's on our menu today. But first, starting with the traditional chant. Om Narayanam Padmabhavam Vasishtham Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Sishyam Tam Totakam Vatikakaram Manyanasmad Gurun Santatamanato Asmi Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad-vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Just to recapitulate, what is Adhyasa? Why is it so important? Briefly. So in the classic example of the rope and the snake, because of the ignorance of the rope, what do I mean by the ignorance of the rope? Now we know to be careful. It's not that I don't even know anything. I know it's there. Something, I see something, but I don't know it's a rope. And then there is a mistake. I feel I'm seeing a snake. It's not just a theory. I just straight away say, oh, there's a snake there. So this seeing the snake where there is no snake, what is actually a rope is seen as a snake. What is actually a rope is mistaken as a snake. This mistake is called Adhyasa. It is translated in English as superimposition. Superimposition does not mean putting something over another thing, one thing over the other. It's mistaking one thing for another. So it's a mistake. So when you mistake what's actually a rope for a snake, when you mistake what's actually a dry desert for a watery oasis, or actually colorless space for a blue sky. That is Adhyasa, superimposition. All right. So what? Now, this is the concept used by Shankaracharya to explain the phenomenon of this universe. That one existence consciousness bliss, one non-dual existence consciousness bliss is appearing to us in all of these ways. We do not know it, just as the rope was not known. Not knowing the rope was the cause of seeing the snake. Not knowing Brahman, that this is Brahman, I am Brahman, is the cause of seeing this, that there's a world, external, material world, and I am this body mind, of thinking that this is the reality. Notice, it will still go on. We'll explain this later on. Even after enlightenment, will you stop seeing the world? Will you stop seeing the body mind? No, you will continue to see the world. An external experience, there is no change. But internally, in our knowledge, in our realization, there is a vast change. So we continue to see the same thing, but now you know it's Brahman. So, and continue to see yourself as this body mind, but now you know it's Brahman, that you are Brahman. So this is ignorance, superimposition, correction of the ignorance, and enlightenment. Ignorance, I don't know it's a rope. Superimposition, it's a snake. Correction, oh, it's not a snake, it's a rope. And enlightenment and freedom, that is free from the fear of the snake. Similarly, I don't know it's Brahman. Oh, it's a world, I am this body mind. Correction, I am Brahman, and this entire universe is nothing but an appearance in Brahman. That is enlightenment and freedom, moksha. So this is crucial. As you can see, Adhyasa is crucial to this entire way of thinking. It is because of Adhyasa. See how important Adhyasa is. The central teaching of Advaita Vedanta, that you are Brahman, Jiva Brahma Aikya in Sanskrit. It means the identity of the sentient being and the absolute reality, that you are identical. You're not one with Brahman. You are Brahman. You are that absolute reality. This identity, this complete radical identity, it depends on Adhyasa. If only this is a mistake, if only Shankaracharya's understanding of the present situation as Adhyasa, as a superimposition, if that is correct, then the identity of Jiva and Brahma is understandable. That yes, we are Brahman, but because of this error, we are seeing ourselves in this way. If it is not correct, then in that case, this is what the reality is. I am actually a body mind. In that case, no amount of shouting, I am Brahman is going to help you. You're just this mortal being. So because of Adhyasa, it becomes understandable. I am Brahman becomes understandable. The identity of Jiva and Brahman. It's because of Adhyasa we can now claim that ignorance is the cause of bondage. Ajnana is the bandha karanam in Sanskrit. Ignorance of our real nature as Brahman is the cause of bondage. What else could it be? It could be like in the other philosophies, like karma. We are sentient beings because of our past karma. We are caught in this cycle of birth and death, and that's the reality. And by the grace of God, we'll be set free someday. But in contrast to this, if you are claiming that no, it's not karma, it's not anything else. It's sheer ignorance, not knowing your ever-free nature, not realizing your ever-free nature. That is the cause of bondage. That is the position of Advaita Vedanta. It's possible only if Adhyasa is true, if Adhyasa is proved to be true. Then its counterpart, Jnana is the cause of realization, of freedom. Knowledge is the cause of freedom. Knowledge can only be the cause of freedom only when Adhyasa is true. Why?
Real quick, I was going to say that. It's like, he's talking about Jnana there, identity. Excuse me. But then it said, this is about Advaita Vedanta. It's like, okay. So it's one of the aspects, I believe. Advaita Vedanta is Karma, Bhakti, Jnana, and Raja, right? Those are the four things taught in Advaita Vedanta, I believe. Or is there more, or are those the four core yogas that are taught in there? So far, there's always been the four that I've heard. So I assume those are the only four. I don't know if others are added into it or not, but so far there's been the four bases based on Swami Chinmayananda, Taratmananda, Sarvapriyananda, I don't know about Sadhguru. He never really talks about. Well, I think he talks about bhakti a little bit. But anyways, in terms of Advaita Vedantas and those Swamis, they've always talked about those four and nothing really else. I mean, they talk about other things, but I don't know if those are part of Advaita Vedanta or not.
What can knowledge do? Knowledge can remove ignorance. And if ignorance is removed, the products of ignorance, like superimposition, mistake, gets corrected. That's all that knowledge can do. So if our bondage is due to a mistake, then knowledge can help us. If it's not really a snake, by mistake I'm seeing a snake, then the knowledge of the rope can help us, that it's a rope and not a snake. That will correct it and settle the problem. But if the adhyasa is if adhyasa is true, then knowledge can help us. If it's really a snake, it's not an adhyasa, not a mistake, really a snake, no amount of shouting it's a rope is going to help. The snake is going to bite you. So as you see, ignorance is the cause of samsara. Knowledge is the cause of freedom. Jiva and Brahman are identical. You are identical with the absolute reality. By knowledge alone, the sadhana. Oh, one more thing. The Brahma Jigyasa Kartavya. When our real duty in this world, our real sadhana becomes this inquiry into who am I. This is also valid only if adhyasa is correct. Let me repeat that. Brahma Jigyasa, inquiry into Brahman, which is the first sutra of the Brahma Sutras. Kartavya, the duty. What are we supposed to do in life? The real thing that we are supposed to do in life, the ultimate thing that we are supposed to do in life is to inquire into who am I or what am I? And that will lead to knowledge of what am I. That knowledge will remove the ignorance of what I am. And that removal of the ignorance will remove the product of ignorance, this mistake we call samsara. All of this is predicated on adhyasa, on superimposition. So you can see how tremendously important this adhyasa is for establishing Advaita Siddhanta, the doctrine of the conclusions of Advaita Vedanta, conclusions of non-dual Vedanta. Superimposition, this theory of superimposition introduced by Shankaracharya, absolutely central. So the second part of what I want to do today is actually go to the text and take up one more sentence. We had just taken a look at the first very formidable sentence, which I had said is one of the most profound things that you can find in any philosophical literature, East and West. I'm quoting the late Professor J.N. Mohanty. But now let's move on. Let me just take up one sentence today, which is after that very long first sentence. If you see the text, there is the text. Aha koyam adhyaso nameti uchyate smriti rupa paratra purva drishta vabhasaha. Translation: it is said, or it is asked, koyam adhyasa nameti. What is this adhyasa? That means give me a definition. It's very important. I get it. It's really important. Define it. What are we talking about? Uchyate. It is being said, or there is a reply. Smriti rupa paratra purva drishta vabhasaha. It is the knowledge or the appearance of something like memory seen elsewhere and based on something that has been experienced earlier. I'll explain all of that. Let me just see what Swami Gambhiranandaji's translation might be. Does anybody have Gambhiranandaji's translation open before them? Gita, you can read out.
If it be asked, what is it that is called superimposition? The answer is, it is an awareness similar in nature to memory that arises on a different foreign basis as a result of some past experience. Okay, that's it. And that's all that we will do in this section of today's class, before the stories. All right. Now the question is being asked. It could be by a student who wants to know what is Adhyasa. Now please define it. Or it could be by an opponent who opposes Shankaracharya's
philosophy is asking, please define what is adhyasa, so that I can take it apart. And Shankaracharya replies, it's an awareness, an experience, a knowledge, something that we have, an experience or knowledge or awareness which we have in general, not a very particular, very precise use of the term, just in general, it's an experience which we have, which is based on something that we have experienced earlier and which is seen in some other locus, and it's like memory. Now let me explain each of these terms. There are, in the definition of adhyasa, definition of superimposition, there are 4 words. Smriti rupa, like memory, first. Paratra, elsewhere, in some other place. Purva drishta, which was experienced earlier. Purva drishta, experienced earlier. Avabhasa, awareness, experience, knowledge. If you just apply it to our rope and snake example, we will see how it fits. Shankaracharya is trying to explain that. So if you apply it to the rope and snake example, and then we'll apply it to Brahman and the world, for example. An experience. So you're seeing and experiencing. The person who makes a mistake about the snake has a kind of experience that I'm seeing a snake. Now, it is paratra. Paratra means elsewhere. Elsewhere means where there is no snake. He's not seeing a snake in the garden or in the zoo. He's seeing a snake where in the rope, where there is no snake at all. Elsewhere means where the object is not there. If you see an object where it is, it's not a mistake. But if you see an object where it is not, that's a mistake. You see a snake in the zoo, the snake where there is a snake, no mistake. If you see a snake where there's no snake, there is a rope, it's a mistake. So paratra means seeing something where it is not there. Now, what's it like? Purva drishta. It's something that has been experienced earlier. So you know about it. It's not an entirely unknown thing. It's something coming out of your samskara, something that is coming out of our past impressions. And smriti rupa, it's like memory. Not memory, it's like memory. All right. Let's analyze this. And for this, I'm drawing upon multiple sources, which that handout will really help you. The notes from the lectures of Professor Mani Dravid Shastri, and he has drawn from multiple commentators and sub-commentators. So anyway, you can look at it later. I'll just generally go on and explain it.
Terrible pause. Okay. Like memory. I was trying to think, what is like memory? Imagination, maybe? What is like memory? Like memory. That help. I mean, I'm assuming imagination, not memory, but like memory. I'm guessing imagination is the word maybe that he's looking for. Maybe that's what it's meant to be, like, because if it's not memory, it's something like memory, which could be imagination, just to be able to understand that that phrase a bit better. So everything else made sense. I was just trying to figure out what is like memory. I assume imagination.
So here, these two, smriti rupa and purva drishta, these two words, like memory and something that has been experienced earlier, they show us the cause, the material out of which the mistake happens, the superimposition happens. Where do we get this impression, this idea, the knowledge about a snake? It's something that we have experienced earlier. We've seen a snake earlier. The person who made a mistake about the rope appearing as a snake, seeing it a snake where there's no snake, he made a mistake because of some past experience. He's conditioned to see a snake. He's conditioned to see a snake. So it's purva drishta, something that has been experienced earlier. Second, it's like memory. It isn't memory. He's not remembering a snake. He's seeing a snake. It's like memory. He's recalling old samskaras, conditioning has been activated, and he's recalling it, but it's not memory. He's not remembering a snake. He doesn't say that, oh, that robe reminds me of a snake I saw in the zoo. He doesn't say that. He says, there's a snake. So it's like memory, but it's not memory. So
Imagination.
this like memory and something experienced earlier, these two words give us the basis, the material out of which the mistake happens. The nature of the mistake itself, the nature of the superimposition of Adhyasa itself is indicated by the other two words. Avabhasa, it's an experience. It's an awareness, it's a knowledge. It's something that we see. And paratra, it's a mistake. It's seen where it is not there. Paratra means elsewhere. What's the very nature of Adhyasa, superimposition? First, it's an experience. Even a mistake is an experience. A dream is an experience. A movie is an experience. Seeing a snake in a rope is an experience. Seeing a mirage, water where there's no water, it's an experience. You can't deny that you had an experience. Yes, later you say it's a mistake, but the experience, even when you say it's a mistake, you can't deny that you had an experience. So it's an experience, avabhasa. And paratra means it's a mistake because you are seeing something where it is not. You are seeing a snake where it's a rope. There's no snake. Applied to Brahman and the world. So because of our past experiences of many lifetimes, we have been conditioned. So that's the purva drishta. Purva drishta. Having experienced earlier. We have experienced it many times in the past. And we have some samskaras of that. Smriti rupa, like memory. Those are evoked like memory, but they're not memory. We are seeing a world. We are not remembering a world seen in past lives. We are actually experiencing, subject-object relationships and all that. And then paratra, purva drishta, avabhasa. Avabhasa means an experience. So our world experience is an experience. We are having an experience now. Even after we become enlightened, we will look back upon this and say we were mistaken, but still we will not deny that we did have this samsara experience. We can say it was like a dream, it was not real, but we don't say that, oh, there was never any problem. I mean, I never had samsara, no. So it is an experience, avabhasa. And paratra, at the other place, elsewhere. What is this elsewhere? It is a Brahman, like a rope, no snake. Like Brahman, no samsara. We are seeing samsara in Brahman. Right now, you are experiencing Brahman. Just like that man made a mistake, he's experiencing a snake. He's looking at the rope. He's actually experiencing a rope, but he thinks it's a snake. He actually feels, you can even say within quotes, he sees it as a snake. Similarly, the enlightened one will tell us, you are actually experiencing Brahman all the time, effortlessly so. The difference between you and the enlightened one is simply in that word, enlightened. Enlightened means knowledge. And that breakthrough has come for that person. And the same experience, he sees the same one non-dual radiance everywhere. So this is how you apply the definition for snake, rope, and then you try to apply it for what it is meant for, actually Brahman and the world, this experience. Not just Brahman and the world, for yourself. You as Atma and you as body-mind. Body-mind, you are pure consciousness. But I don't see myself as pure consciousness. I see myself as a body-mind. It's like seeing the snake in the rope. It is purva drishta. I have seen this many, many lifetimes. Smriti rupa. This is being recalled like a memory. It's being recalled. Samskaras. And paratra, where it is not. In the Atma. What do you mean where? Just like the rope, there is the Atman, existence, consciousness, bliss, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham. In that, what is not there, that appearance of body mind, it comes and I say, I am that. All right.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it right there. I guess I didn't really speak too much because there was too much necessarily to say, but I'll go over what I do remember that I've said. The first thing is, it seems like this is stressed about Jnana Yoga very much, about knowledge, strictly knowledge. About knowledge of who you are and what you're not. Also, I talked about how Advaita Vedanta talks about the 4 yogas that I know of. Bhakti, Karma, Raja, and Jnana Yoga. I guess perhaps this one in particular is more focused on Jnana Yoga. And then are those the only 4 yogas that are taught in Advaita Vedanta, or are there other things just for some odd reason, out of all the videos I've watched, they've never mentioned it. I know there's Kundalini Yoga and Kriya Yoga, but I don't think those are part of Advaita Vedanta, because those are spoken from Sadhguru for both. But then he was just talking about it, explaining what those are, because I guess people ask him the questions. Same thing with Swami Taratmananda, talking about Kundalini Yoga and how his master told him not to do it, I believe, or something along those lines, like, you know, don't do it, or don't follow the path, or something. I can't remember the exact words, but essentially just told him don't worry about it, focus on Advaita Vedanta. And the next one is memory-like. I'm guessing imagination would be a good substitute for that word, memory-like, because our imagination isn't necessarily, how to say, as creative. Well, it's not necessarily creative, even though we say we use our imagination to be creative. I believe our imagination is based on our past experiences. We can make up stuff based on our past experiences, but we cannot usually create things we don't know. So our imagination is limited to what we know, and then we can amalgamate or put together things that are not normally put together in our imagination. So like a, I don't know, a triangle wheel, you know. I mean, you know, there's a wheel that exists, there's a triangle that exists, but there's no wheels that exist as a triangle, and that we can imagine a triangle wheel, though. But the triangle wheel is not something that's created out of thin air. It's an amalgamation of a wheel and a shape that you put together. Or like a monster with 50 tentacles or something like that. Like what you do is you have a monster and you have an octopus, and then the monster has many more. It's just something that's abnormal, that's not in nature. So you just get an octopus and just have so much more tentacles out there. So I assume, let me know if imagination, I think, is a good word to use on that, because it sounds about right. Again, it's something, imagination is something that you previously experienced and that your mind kind of implies onto stuff to make sense. Our mind wants to make sense of things, and it will imagine things that it doesn't know to make sense of what you're seeing or doing. So if you're looking at something but you don't know what it is, your mind will more than likely imagine something that's not really there. Kind of like when you see a shadow move, you think, oh, it could be an animal or a monster. I know imagination can be stretched a bit more into the fantasy realm, but I think it can also be reality, where like, oh, you're just imagining things, like you're just seeing things, kind of like that, I guess. Maybe imagine might be stretching it a bit much, but I can kind of see it as imagining in a more, how's it, down to earth? I don't know. Maybe imagine might not be the one. Just let me know, because it's really weird to just say memory-like. It's kind of difficult to understand. It's like, well, is it memory? It's not. So it's not memory. So it's something else, but memory-like. And the best thing I can come up with was imagination, I think, because again, your imagination doesn't create new things. It just thinks of things that you've experienced in the past and makes weird stuff out of it, or implies it into to what you're doing or seeing at the moment. So anyways, that's the end of this video. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down, down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.